Welcome to Bright MLS Revealed, where we pull back the curtain and bring you conversations with the people who drive the real estate industry and the policies that impact the health of real estate in the Mid-Atlantic. We're looking forward to bringing you the latest information on a wide variety of topics central to innovation, technology, and the real estate industry. Our host is Bright MLS President and CEO, Brian Donnellan. Let's get started. Listing syndication has evolved from a mindset of set it and forget it to something that needs to be carefully managed by brokers. With so many listing destinations available online, it's important to regularly monitor where your listings are going and know how they're getting there. Today we'll take a closer look at IDX feeds and syndication, how they've changed, and what it means for consumers. Brian is joined by three industry leaders to discuss. Let's get started.
First of all, let me thank the three of you, Joan, David, and Dante, for joining us today. I just want to start with an opening question. And really the question is, with all this talk going out there, how familiar do you think brokers and agents in our industry are with this topic? How much do they know about this topic? And then if you could just finally finish, why is it important that they know about this topic? And Joan, I'll start with you.
Sure. So I do think that brokers know about IDX and syndication. We've been talking about it for many years. So I think brokers are fairly familiar. Agents, on the other hand, the only reason they become familiar is that they want an IDX feed on their own individual website, right? That's what they want. They want to try to attract the consumer to their individual website. So IDX becomes important. Agents also and brokers want to syndicate because that's what their customers are asking for. A lot of these portals have the eyeballs of the consumer. And so agents want their listings there because the consumer's asking for that. And so brokers, whether or not we think overall it's a good idea, we kind of cave to the fact that the consumer, it's a consumer's world and they want it, if that makes any sense.
Absolutely does. David, did you want to take a shot at that?
No, and I think Joan is, as usual, spot on in her observations about this. I think that there's probably a little more awareness now of this issue, not necessarily understanding, but awareness of the issue with agents with Zillow's recent move to becoming a broker. And agents are needing to understand the distinction between an IDX feed and syndication.
Dante, the same question, but is it complicated?
I think there's a natural tension in that relationship, right? Whereby the agent, the brokerage wants to make sure that we are providing all the information that a consumer may demand. At the same time, there's this, it seems to me, and I certainly don't want to speak for anybody else on the panel, but it seems to me to be there's a component that says, well, I don't want to lose the client or the customer to the vendor who may be looking to siphon off those customers from either the broker or the agent. And that natural tension makes it it's a simple process to understand either the logistics of IDX or syndication. It becomes more complex when you have the fight for the consumer at the forefront of those conversations.
Just anybody can ask this question. It's not directed towards, but when you look out there and the information that goes by, whether it be social media, whatever, this idea of broker control, I think, is oftentimes confusing to the agents as to why the broker decides where this goes and what their influence is. Do any of you want to speak to that to help clear up the understanding of why the broker does have control and why the agent should be talking with the broker about how the information is distributed throughout the different channels?
Yeah, I'll wait real quickly. Go ahead, Joan. Sorry.
No, all I was going to say is the listing belongs to the broker, much to the agent's chagrin. That's the way, it works. And so therefore the broker's responsible for what might happen to that listing. So I think that it's really important for the broker to be involved. And sometimes the broker has more insight into what could go wrong that an agent may not be aware of.
And I would just add on to Joan's comments that I think it has been widely misunderstood by the agent community as a whole, and even some brokers, that that the multiple listing system controls the distribution of these listings. Joan's absolutely correct. The listings are the property of the broker. So if there is a listing on a portal or on an IDX site, it's because the broker has given permission for it to be there. And the flip side is true as well. If the listing's not there, unless there's a technical glitch, it's because the broker chose not to have their listings go to that particular site.
So Dante, let me ask you that question. Again, IDX, you're either all in or you're all out, because that's right, that's cooperation. You can't cooperate partially. But syndication, where it goes to, you know, any of the vendors out there that are asking for the, why wouldn't you want it to go there? Is there any reason that you would tell your agent, or what the consumer expectation as to why it wouldn't go somewhere?
I personally don't think there is. I think it's a challenging concept, though, for some to wrap their heads around. And I think that is because, again, that natural tension that I talked about a little earlier. I think we live clearly in an information age, and the consumer demand for as much information as possible. We won't take that in a different direction back to when consumers didn't demand more information, right? So while we might have our own personal reservations about it, or our own personal concerns about what that means, we are in the business in many ways of responding to what the consumer needs are or demands are in the marketplace. And that's what keeps you vibrant and relevant as a business, if you will, on the go forward. I think Joan said something earlier that I think is incredibly important to just click down a level or two on. Not only does the listing belong to the brokerage, but the risk and the responsibility also squarely reside with the broker. So, you know, while it's important to understand and appreciate what the agent position may be around it, it's also important for our agents to understand that there's a responsibility and a risk that goes along with every single listing that the agent disproportionately doesn't have responsibility for in the way that the broker or the brokerage does.
Agreed. Joan or David, do you have anything to add to that?
I'll just add one other thing, and Dante, I love the way you expressed it as a natural tension between what the consumer needs are and what the agent or broker needs may be. And I think there occasionally are some reasons that a listing or listings in general wouldn't go to a particular portal. And ultimately, we're responsible to our seller client. And if a seller doesn't want their listing on, and I won't name any particular site, because of how that listing is going to be portrayed there, whether it's an automated valuation model that's way out of whack with in line of reality, then the seller, through the broker, has the right, and should have the right, not to have their listing displayed in a format that they don't believe is in their best interest.
Hey, Joan, I'm going to take another question, and I'll start with you. The whole idea of syndication, as we said, it's changed a lot over the few years, but it's always been a challenging topic. And whether we were at Trend or MRIS or Bright, we've done communication around this, and we usually do it at least once a year with campaigns that go throughout there. You know, my fear still is that folks go in there, set it and forget it, that they forget that they have control and things are just going on as they always were. What do you do inside Fox and Roach, or even industry-wise, to help talk about this topic and what it is that you guys want with your listings and how you're going to go about with syndication?
So I think that in the early stages of syndication, there was an expectation that you just send it everywhere. And as time went on, we realized what portals were beneficial for the agents and for the company. And we determined which portals we wanted to send our listings to. And so we talk about the benefits of certain portals and the negatives of others. And we communicate to our agents the best we can. The agents, you know, have to get permission from the broker to be able to send it to a certain feed. And so we normally give it if that's where an agent wants their listings to go. But I think that it's important to know how these portals behave and where you're sending your listings. I don't think you can just set it and let all portals, you know, have everything. I don't think they're all equal. And, you know, as much as sometimes, and I think there is some tension as was said, because the agents really hate that they have to pay a referral on their own listings, and that's how they feel. And we hate it. But again, it's something that, you know, we let that horse out of the barn years ago. And it's turned out to be a quite expensive proposition over time because portals are charging.
Yeah, David, same sort of thing, as this has evolved, do you have a conversation with your professionals, your agents, about how consumers view, the various websites, with various sites that they're going to, and the value they provide or don't provide?
Yes, we do. But I also don't want to lose sight of the fact that while marketing is an important part of what we do, it's actually a small part of what we do as brokers and with agents. I go back to the day of when we ran classified ads in newspapers, as hard as that is to believe. And I would expect a call on Sunday morning if we'd messed an ad up because we didn't get the price right or we didn't get the description right. The same holds true with the ubiquitous nature of the internet. But again, marketing is only a small part of what we do. We want to make sure we get the listing right. We want to make sure it goes to the right places. But that's just the beginning of the process. And I think that consumers in general have an understanding of that. If you look at the surveys that NAR does of buyers and sellers, the usage of agents, both by sellers as well as by buyers, has never been higher. And so the concept that the internet was somehow going to disintermediate agents and brokerages has actually had the reverse effect. I think it's highlighted more the value that our agents bring to the consuming public.
So in that vein, we're talking about policy, and we're talking about there's a lot of policies out there being developed, and quite honestly, not all brokers like all the policies, and getting consensus can be hard at times. How do we, as industry leaders, Bright, because you're on the board, balance that need for understanding where the world's going with preserving the cooperation aspect that we know that whole marketplace actually provides everybody? How do we balance those things and try to get agreement as an industry? I know it's tough. David or Dante, anything about policy development and consensus moving forward?
Well, Brian, this may sound a little bit corny, but I'm going to quote Terry McDermott, NAR's former CEO from several years ago, who's just a brilliant guy. And he described the multiple listing system as a unique American success story. And it absolutely is. This doesn't exist anyplace else in the world. And it's not that the multiple listing system is perfect. And our policies have evolved over the years. We're doing things very differently now than we did 10 years ago, or even 5 years ago, or 2 years ago. But the reason it's such a success story is because it has as its core a focus on the consumer. The consumer benefits from ubiquitous access to all of the inventory that's out there, sellers and buyers alike. And we benefit as an industry, and consumers do, with the foundation of cooperation and compensation. While good competition makes you better, and there is no shortage of competition out there, including for competition for the multiple listing system. As Joan said, there's companies out there, business models that opt not to put their listings in the MLS. That's their prerogative to do so. But we have all benefited, and we is not just brokers and agents, but consumers have benefited by this platform that's been created by the realtor community to share information and work with each other in a cooperative and ethical fashion. And the winners are consumers.
Dante, Joan, and David, I thank you guys so much. You guys are super smart, super helpful. I appreciate you taking the time out of your busy days to talk about this. I think it's important, and I hope that we achieve our objective of just getting a little bit more knowledge about folks, their data distribution, why things are done. So again, thank you guys so much for taking the time. I appreciate it.
Thank you. Thanks for the opportunity.
My pleasure. Thanks.
Dante, nice to
Thanks.
meet you.